Hello, let's discuss what happens when object is created in this video. Okay, what happens when object is created? So this is the file constructor info in which I have mentioned what happens when object is created. Number one, memory is allocated for instance member or members. Number two, members means instance members. Members are implicitly initialized with default values. For example, primitives like int, short, etc. as 0, boolean as false, reference types, uh, for example, string or any class reference types as null. If programmer has done any explicit initialization, which is allowed by Java programming, if programmer has done any explicit initialization, members are initialized. And number three, constructor is called, and if the programmer has done any explicit initialization there, members are initialized accordingly. So point number one, memory is allocated to instance member or members. Point number two, that is next step, members are implicitly initialized if they are not explicitly initialized with default values. And in case if we have done any explicit initialization inside the class, it works that way. That means instance members are initialized. And the last stage is constructor is called. And inside constructor, if we have initialized, we normally initialize inside the constructor, especially parameterized constructor. So if we have initialized any member inside the constructor, initialization takes place there also. Okay, so let's see all these three things together. We have a class sample. In that instance member private int num is there. At present we haven't initialized it. Okay, and then we have a default constructor. We have getter method. In the main function we are creating object of sample s1 is equal to new sample. As you know, the object gets created inside heap and the reference gets created inside stack, and then we are calling s1.getNum. Now in order to check what exactly happens, I would like to debug this application, and for that I will place the breakpoints, one at here at this SOP inside sample constructor, and the other one is where exactly we create the object. Okay, so I have placed these two breakpoints, one inside the constructor and one inside the other inside main function where we are creating object of sample. Okay, now when you create object, how do you understand how object is created inside Java? So already we have discussed. Let's have a quick recap. When you say sample s1 is equal to new sample, inside heap the object gets created at some address and num is allocated memory. Okay, and then s1 is a reference on the stack which refers to the object which is created inside heap. Okay, this is the concept we know. Now what happens exactly? Let's see. I will say right click, run as, sorry, I will say debug as, not run as, because I would like to debug. Why I want to debug this application? Because I want to check what exactly happens. Okay, so here debug as Java application. Do you want to open this perspective now? Yes. At present the perspective is Java. So if I say yes, it will open debug perspective. So yes. Okay. Now have a look at this, especially this window, variables window. Not a single variable you see, right? Because this is because at present This line, at present, the breakpoint is on this line. That means this line has not yet completed. This line has not yet completed. Okay. In order to go ahead, I have to click this step over button, F6, step over button. Okay. Now, when I click on step over, object creation will be completed. And the concept of this you already know. I have made one special video about this. The concept of this you know. Now the control is there inside constructor. So what about this? So what is this? This means the object which is created, S1. Okay. Now you will see here num. That means num is allocated memory. By the time we are inside the constructor, num is allocated memory. By the time we are inside the constructor, num is already allocated memory with the value 0. Now why value 0? Because we have just declared int num. So in Java, the members are implicitly initialized, okay, to the default values. I told you that int is 0. So num is 0. So num is 0. Okay. Now the control is there inside the constructor. It has not yet crossed that line. I will once again click on step over. Okay. Now see where the control has come. Look at that cursor which is blinking. Now it is the end of that constructor. So what is the value of num at the end of constructor? It is still 0 if you look at this window. We are at the close of the constructor. We are at the end of the constructor and look at the value of num. It is 0. It is because we haven't initialized it inside the constructor. So num remains 0. Again step over. Control comes to the main function. Step over s1 dot get num. Okay. So S1 you can see now the reference which refers to the object, okay, which has got num as 0. So S1 dot get num will simply print 0. So that's how it works. Okay. So in this demo, what have we seen out of these three? Out of these three steps, memory is allocated, we saw. Members are implicitly initialized, we saw. This is because we did not explicitly initialize num in the class. Construct is called, we saw. But in the constructor, again, we did not initialize them. So now let's see, let's experiment some more things. So I will go back to my Java perspective. Okay. And here I will remove these breakpoints. Okay. And this time, I would like to initialize num is equal to 50 here. Okay. This is called as initialization inside the constructor. And I will do one more thing. Here also I will initialize it to 20. So this is called as explicit initialization outside the class. This is initialization inside the construct. Now let's observe. Once again, I will place the breakpoint here at SOP in the constructor and here at sample S1, right? And then I will say debug as Java application. Again, perspective needs to be changed. Now, when I debug that, just a moment. Yeah. Debug as Java application. Perspective, yes. Okay, have a look at that. At present, my Control is here. That means sample S1 is equal to new sample. Hmm? If I say step over, object creation is completed. Object creation is completed. That means we have this picture. The object is then the heap with the num value, sorry, with the num as member, and S1 refers to that object. Now, if I expand this, num is 20. Why num is 20? Because we have done explicit initialization. So num's value is 20. Num's value is 20. Okay. Notice that we are inside the constructor and we haven't reached till this point. Num is equal to 50. Now, when I say step over, control comes to num is equal to 50, and you can see now where you have to do one more step over again. Now you come to the close end, you come to the end of the constructor, and notice the value of num is 50. So now it is 50. Now it is 50. And then that's it. Just say step over. So object creation is completed. SOP s1.getNum, which prints 50. Okay. So in this demo, we saw memory is allocated. Yes, when object got created, num got memory. Members are explicitly initialized here because we did explicit initialization in this case, and that is num is equal to 20. Num is equal to 20 that we saw. Huh? And finally, constructor is called, and if the programmer has done any explicit initialization, yes, inside constructor also we have done explicit initialization. Num is equal to 50. So now 20 got overwritten as 50. 20 got overwritten with value 50. So final value of num is 50. So we saw all these steps here in this demo. So that is what happens when object is created. One more demo I would like to show you. Let's go back to Java perspective and let's remove this constructor and let's have parameterized constructor. Source generate constructor using fields. Yes. Now see. In order to make it simple, I will just remove this super. Because what is super will discuss in case of inheritance. Okay. So here I must pass the value. Let's say I'm passing 100. I'm passing 100. Okay. Now it's fine. Yes. Once again, I would like to. Now I don't have any statement in the constructor. That's fine. This dot num is equal to num. Breakpoint here and breakpoint here. Okay, fine. Two breakpoints. And now again, debug as Java application. Perspective, yes. Okay, have a look at that. The cursor is here, control is here because of breakpoint, and object creation has not yet completed. Step over. Now you are inside the constructor, but by the time you are inside the constructor, what has happened? Num is allocated memory with the value num is allocated the memory with the value 100. Just a moment. What has happened? Wait. Let's remove this breakpoint. Remove this. Let's have controls. Yes. Inside sample constructor. Okay. And we'll have breakpoint for this. Okay. Breakpoint here as well. Okay, fine. Now we'll say debug as Java application. Perspective, yes. Okay. You are here. F6 and let's run this application first. Inside sample constructor num is okay. Let's debug this again. Step over. Yeah. So you can see this num is 20. Actually, we were looking at this num, which is the local member. And you can see the difference between local member and instance member. This is the instance member and this is the local member, right? I did not expand this. That's why we could not see this num. But now we can see this num. See, now control is here at SOP. So what's the instance member of num? What's the value of instance member? 20. Okay. And this num is a local member. Okay. Now, oh, I have commented this. Let me go back to the main code and yeah. Okay. Okay. Once again, let's debug. Debug as Java application. Yes. Okay. It's here. Step over. Yeah. This num is local, 100. Huh? And if I want to see instance member, I have to expand this. Look at this. This is the instance member. And this one is local member. Now, the control is here right now. Debugging control. So this line has not yet been executed. If I say step over, now you will see, look at the right hand side window. Now see, this dot num is equal to num. Control has come here. When we say step over once again, now we are at the end of the constructor. Look at that num instance member. It is 100 now. Okay. So in this demo, again, what we saw, memory is allocated, num got memory, then members are explicitly initialized. What was the value of explicit initialization? It was 20. It was 20. And finally, through constructor, again num got initialized as 100. So all three steps we saw in this. So what happens when the object is created? Let us summarize. Memory is allocated for instance member or members. Members are implicitly initialized with the default values like primitives primitives like end short 0, boolean as false, reference types as null. If programmer has done any explicit initialization, which we did in our demos, members are initialized. And finally, constructor is called. And if programmer has done any explicit initialization there, members are initialized accordingly. So these are the steps which are performed when the object is created. Hope it's clear. Thank you.